Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. I wanted to be in touch with daily updates during this very powerful astrological time. So thank you so much for joining me. Um, we are feeling so much intensity in the world right now. And it's really important that we recognize the power we have together to create the world that we want to create. What's happening right now is a deep revealing of powerful truths, not fun to look at, but really important in our moving forward in our evolution. So there we are being faced with this. It's interesting because we've had so much crisis and energies in our world, just, the human condition and throughout history. But this particular crisis we're facing is on a global scale. And so it is bringing forward a very powerful energy for us to work with. Now, it's really important to know, and the reason why I'm called to kind of reach out and stay in touch at this time is because there's such incredible, powerful fear energy going on. And it's really important for us to examine whether or not we have permission for our own thoughts and feelings. So, part of the energy that's happening right now in the world is an exposure of dark and nefarious energies of control mechanisms that have been working with us and controlling us for thousands of years. And now we're having an opportunity for this energies to come to the surface. And that's really what this is about. And so these soul groups that are drawn to this work and what we're doing together, it's really important, like I talked about in the last update yesterday, that we keep focused on the bigger picture of what's trying to happen here and know deep inside of ourselves that there is something way bigger trying to happen, way bigger and more beautiful. And that's why we're here. So we're having a huge kind of clarion call to come into our greater purpose and to connect together, because that's the energy that has really kept these nefarious global forces in charge, is that our delusion that and not seeing that the power lies with the people. The power lies with numbers, right? And part of the greater agenda has to do with isolation. And I think it's so interesting, especially with these types of souls, powerful, creator, empathic, sensitive souls, you know? And so I think it's really interesting that this global situation is bringing forward this isolation, like absolutely to the surface, like stay home, don't do anything, go, like, and it's like this enforced isolation. And yet this has been such a huge part of the agenda. And we're going to just be talking through some of these things, because once we start to see that the situation is actually bringing forward an opportunity to reveal these darker agendas, we can find more peace in what's happening. Now, the other part of this, though, is that we don't really get to know. Like, it's really hard right now because it's like we can sense there's something bigger trying to happen, and yet we don't get to have the information, but do we need that, or do we need to take this opportunity to go within and find that greater truth within? But the biggest problem right now is that, and what's being revealed is that these global control energies have a greater agenda around technological control. And so what's really happening is like a propaganda energy going on. It's like an experiment in how far we can go with the energies of mind control. Now, just, what I've been shown in my intuitive sessions over time, I'm just going to bring an example. Like, we know that mind control experiments have been going on since the 50s in our own government. And now, what I was shown in past life pictures around World War II and Hitler and what was able to happen and the genocide at that time actually had to do with technological energies that created an environment where everybody just kind of went along with the plan, even though it was so wrong, right? And now, are we going to think that all these years later, these mechanisms aren't going to be used on us? So, what this situation is bringing to light, and this powerful exposure of these dark forces that have been wanting to control humanity, is the use of technology to affect our vibrational field, our emotions, our thoughts, right? And the ultimate agenda, as far as what I've been shown, has to do with having us all go into like a mainframe computer, basically, where we're just robots and controlled by the greater forces. So the biggest way we can take our power back right here, right now, is to claim our permission for our own thoughts and feelings. And aren't we being given a huge opportunity for this? I mean, you can feel this fear energy come in like a wave of consciousness. It's like, and it's almost like you will feel this way. You don't have a choice. This is the way you're going to feel. And it's like, but if you really examine the facts of this pandemic, it doesn't warrant the level of fear at all. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as these days go on. But I just felt called to really bring some of these things to the surface for these particular soul groups, because it's time for us to come into the value of who we are, why we're here, and get down to it and connect with each other, right? And so I was wondering about, there's all this kind of energy around, we know the power of consciousness. We know from experiments that 7,000 people can come together and change the vibration, lower the crime rate in their town, right? And we know, I can see in my own work that when people come together and connect, they can amplify what the good energies and what they want to see created. And that's really what we're being called to do, to push through this illusion of isolation. And like, I was seeing that really clearly. It's like these souls have been searching and searching for their soul group members, and that feeling of connection, and feeling like I'm the only one here that's going through this and feeling this, and it's not true. And yet there's so much control energy on these souls finding each other. Guess why? Because it's powerful. And now we're giving this huge opportunity to find each other on this other level. And perhaps, and that's what I've been shown too, is that when we find each other on these other levels, then we gradually can find more permission within ourselves energetically, clear that fear programming, and bring these people into our real life, right? Real 3D interaction with your soul group members. Wow. Because that's really what's required to move this whole thing forward. And so no wonder there's so much energy against that. And so I wanted to just bring forward the power of this, and the power of, and I've seen this in just events that I've done where people come together. There can be huge energy shifts in the collective from just a few people coming together with their intention. And this is part of the delusion that's breaking down right now, and the reveal of what's being shown to us through this situation is part of the delusion says that the programming says that we're powerless against these energies of control. They're sorry, there's nothing you can do, and for lifetimes we've rolled over and just taken it. Say, well, how do I go up against the tanks and guns, right? But we're at this massive shift where there are forces that have tanks and guns that are trying to take back the power from these forces. And we do have to hold space for that. Like I was talking about, just holding space for the positive energies that are, and the support that's available on multiple levels of consciousness that we can, reach out and work with and receive and hold space. But it's like, we're the ground army right now, coming together in our consciousness and saying, wait a minute, I have autonomy over my thoughts and feelings. And I'm going to decide what I think and feel for once, right? Now, this is the thing, because a lot of, as we start to understand this, the level of darkness that's controlling us and coming out, it gets really scary in itself, right? So we got fear of disease, we got fear of government control, fear of the technological control, and it's all just blooming, right? But maybe that's our opportunity. It's like we got to clear this deeper fear that's within us, this fear programming. Maybe that's an opportunity, what's going on too, is it's like coming up to the surface. And so, but it's also really powerful, because it's like, wait a minute, we do have power. The power is in the numbers and the consciousness. Like, our consciousness is so powerful. And I've been shown that again and again, that, with all of as we come into that awareness of the technological control and the agendas of what dark agendas of what, like, have been working for hundreds and thousands of years to create on this planet. That's the feeling. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm powerless against this. And alone, you are actually kind of, you do have control over your own thoughts and feelings, which is kind of what we're working with here today. But when we come together in our consciousness, it's like game over, right? And that's what we need to focus on right now. And so there's a lot of energy of like group prayer and all that stuff, and using your consciousness. And I don't know, I'm toying around with, at least for these specific soul groups that we've been working together and finding each other and following my work. I kind of like the idea of noon. In the ancient times, and the ancient yogis and the alchemists also, ancient yogis would practice at sunrise, sunset, and noon. And then also the alchemists saw great power in those times, and so it's like maybe noon is a good time, because 12, 1 and 2 together, not all of us are up or sunrise or sunset, right? And it changes day to day, but noon is something we could kind of grab onto. And 1 and 2 together make 3, which is a creative force, taking the power of 2 individuals and making something more than, the sum of the parts greater than the whole of the individual. So it's kind of a cool energy around creating the energy we want to have. And so maybe that's a good time. We can just take a couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes at noon, exactly in our time zone, and hold that intention for creating that. This is giving us an opportunity to really move forward in our creation of this new world, being co-creators in this beautiful dream that we're here to be a part of. And of course, we know that we've been talking about how true healing, in any true healing that really heals, there is a presentation of symptoms. And that's exactly what's going on right now. But this presentation of symptoms on this global level is actually giving us a huge opportunity to see through so many lies of like, and it's like, that's the deal. It's like, it's hard when you first come into these truths, because it's like, no, I don't want to think that there's actually energies out there that are trying to kill 90% of the population. I can't really face that, but these energies have been working this whole time. We're just now starting to see it, right? And there's a lot of evidence coming forward around bioweapons, and that this particular situation is also, created in a laboratory very deliberately, just like Ebola, just like AIDS, maybe all disease we've ever had. There's kind of evidence for that around it being introduced to humanity. And so that's part of the energy coming forward around this. And of course, like I said, that brings up its own fear energy. And yet, is this the opportunity for all of this to be revealed? Like technological control over our banking system, control over our thoughts and beliefs through that technology, and the power that's been used through fear to control us, fear and poverty, and lower astral plane energies. So this is one thing that's been shown to me in intuitive sessions, past life pictures over time. I've seen again and again that negative creating on the earth, that, dark things that have happened, whether it's catastrophes or these types of pandemic-y type things, for negative to creating for negative, because we are the consciousness, right? And I know it's like we've been told this again and again. Oh, you create your own reality, right? And it's like, yeah, well, I don't know, because I don't want this, right? But that's kind of the deal. They seed our consciousness with ideas, right? And then they use fear programming and fear energies to allow that to be manifested. Okay. And that's exactly what's happening right now, except it's being shown so clearly to us. And if you have any bit of conscious awareness and you've been on a spiritual path, you can feel this fear energy is like so overpowering and so out of proportion to what's really going on. And so, but that's how situations happen, as I've been shown in these past lives. That first they create the fear around it, then consciousness, humanity will create that, right? And this is where we're being given this huge opportunity to take that power back. And so that fear energy is exactly kind of what's going on here, because we need to kind of look at some facts here. And we also have to look at like that bigger picture of what's going on. And so if you were interested and you want to learn more information and to really get a sense of like this distorted thing that's happening right now, of course it's global, so we're having to deal with a huge level of collective consciousness, huge level of collective fear, and there is danger as far as like supply chain issues and our economy and like things like that coming, even though it's not really the actual V itself, the actual virus itself isn't actually that scary. But what could happen from the fear of it is, right? And that's why it's kind of like, I feel called to kind of rally and support truth and information at this time, and spiritual consciousness to kind of get, like we're talking about that sanity, right? Like just hold space for sanity right now, amidst all this fear programming, and know that this is the opportunity for so much to be revealed to us about how we've been controlled, and to take our power back on that level. But so if you just looking at the real facts, and I was paying attention to this task force that's been created by the US government, and what this is so interesting. So it's like, so what's happening right now is that about 96 to 98, we're pretty much at like 98% of people who have symptoms that would be, possibly around this particular virus sickness, they're testing negative. Okay. So that means that only 2% of people who are actually displaying symptoms actually have this thing, right? It's mostly just regular colds and flus. Now, that's part of now. So the deal with this is also that a lot of people who have this, which is kind of like one of those things that's everywhere, and we're just kind of being caught up in this fear propaganda machine experiment of how much control they can have, is that a lot of people just don't even get any symptoms. Right? But that's kind of the danger in it too, because the only people who are actually in danger of this actual illness is elderly people who already have a chronic condition. And plenty of elderly people have gotten it and got over it fine, and it was no big deal. Okay. So, but since you can have it and not have symptoms, then you could go and accidentally infect elderly people who have a compromised immune system. So that's kind of the one little thing we're working with here. Now, that's really important, because it's like people die of pneumonia and the flu, and these elderly compromised people every year in thousands and thousands, right? But we're not talking about that, right? Because it's fear porn. And it's about everybody getting so riled up. But there is a bigger picture going on too. And we kind of have to just sit tight with what's happening. It's going to be a couple of weeks. But you know what? I'm guessing after this couple of weeks and we have these astrological shifts, people are going to be like, what were we so freaked out about? Because it's like, if you really listen to the facts coming through, and the Surgeon General of the US saying it's not a threat to your average American, average person. It's not. It's and there's like a person that was on the cruise ship that was this big huge deal about quarantining the cruise ship and everything. She's an elderly, or so-called elderly. She's not old really, but she's like in her 60s, and she completely recovered. And she's like, what is the deal with the hysteria around this? And so healthy elderly are not actually susceptible to this. And so it's like this tiny, tiny slice of our population. And yes, we want to protect them. And that's kind of the steps they're taking. They're quarantining, say, nursing homes, for this reason. And that makes sense. Now it's interesting though, because there's all this talk behind the scenes around the financial reset and trying to take back control, like that the Federal Reserve is an unelected body that's been massively controlling us through financial crashes and this and that, and stealing our billions of dollars from us and keeping us in poverty, right? And so this may be actually giving us an opportunity to make deep changes in the financial system. This is everything we've been talking about with these planets in Capricorn. Like the Capricorn represents the structures of our world. And we know that the structures of our world are still in the dark ages and about controlling us through fear. And is this what's going on? And so our energy, our consciousness being put on the bigger, sweeping, positive changes that are trying to happen right now can be so immensely helpful, and helpful to the people around us that are really buying into the fear energy. And it's hard not to, because like I said, so now one of the things that has come forward around this situation is that there's an associated with the so-called deaths that have happened from this, say in the sea country, are very associated with technological energies, these new energies. It's basically microwave technology that has to do with getting us faster internet, right? But those same technologies can be used. It's what it is it's a vibration that's very similar to the vibration. So this like 5G technology, it's like very similar to our human thought wave vibration, right? And there's like 26,000 scientists that have signed a petition to say that this isn't safe and it hasn't been tested and we shouldn't be implementing it. But that's a big part of what's going on in that certain area of that sea country, And so all these people who died there actually might not have, it's just not just the virus, it's a combination of the virus with this technology. And of course, doesn't that make sense? That this fear energy of like this, that's so much out of proportion with the sickness, but is really the sickness, And so the most important thing we can do right now is to recognize that these vibrations are being fed to us, and then recognize that we are in control of the way we think and we feel. And so, when we come together in that vibration, we can feel this energy. We can, make that more powerful in our collective consciousness and help each other claim. Because I can feel that, like once, if we're not feeling connected collectively, it's really hard to not get sucked into the fear energy, even though you don't believe in it and it's not true, because we're dealing with a whole new level of situation here with this technological control. And yet we are more powerful, so much more powerful against it, but we got to work together on that, and we need to hold space to support those players that are trying to rid our planet of this disease, of the disease, of the sick people, of the like people in control that want to take our population down by 90%. And there's some nefarious, I mean, we could go deep into some rabbit holes around that. And I don't think that that's going to serve us at this time, but I do want to talk more about the truths that are trying to be revealed as these days go on. And we'll talk about the astrology and the relation to that, because it is time to face, this is the great reveal. And we're being revealed how we've been controlled financially. And it's being revealed the technological control, being revealed the propaganda, of the news lying to us. And I was seeing that at first, the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, came forward and said, oh, this is not really a threat. It's not a big deal, right? And then all of a sudden, it became this huge, huge deal. And so we have to kind of sort through this, but our news and the information being told to us, it's not new that it's a propaganda lie. That's also been going on for hundreds of years since there was news, right? But are we okay with this now? And we actually have the internet where we can get real news, and yet so much of the population is still clinging to this control energy, and that maybe makes them feel safe, right? It's also like the groupthink mentality, and that's a lot of what's going on here too. It's like, see, this is the danger of the Aquarian age in a way, because it's like Aquarius rules technology, and it's got that energy of where as we evolve, we're becoming more and more connected empathically and emotionally, right? That's why we have to make a better world where we're taking care of each other, which is a big part of the energy of this virus too. Bring people down to earth and being like, hey, we got to take care of each other, right? We got to watch out for our neighbors. We got to be careful, we got to be mindful of taking care of each other. That's a very positive energy that could come out of this. And that's the Aquarian age. Rudolf Steiner talked about how as we evolve into the future, we won't be able to be in the same room with someone who's feeling something and not feel it. Right? So that means we got to clean up our planet, because we're getting more and more sensitive, more and more empathic. And that's what's been going on for these souls. It's like you're on the cutting edge of that. You've got this incredible ability you've developed over many lifetimes and evolutions to feel, which is a power. It's your power, but it's also like crippling when you're feeling the collective pain, because there's dark, nasty things going on behind the surface, right? And it's all got to come out. And is this our opportunity? So I just wanted to kind of talk about these things and start to bring them up and bring us, just kind of, I'll be back with daily updates through this period of time, because we're just starting to feel Mars, Jupiter, Pluto action happening. And that's what this is really about as far as astrologically. So for the next week or so, 10 days, it's going to be powerful and intense as we move through the equinox. So I just wanted to be present and kind of ask that we be present together. And maybe that exact noon point is an easy time to kind of take 3 minutes to be like, hey, we're creating a new and better world. And first we have to expose the garbage. So that's what is happening. And so today the theme is about like whether or not we have permission to feel what we want to feel and think what we want to think. And we've been controlled on this in a huge level through news and through, more and more with this technological control. And yet it's bringing up this opportunity for us to claim back our spiritual, emotional, and mental autonomy. And so it is so incredibly powerful. And I've been just shown this right now. We were talking about that we can take our power back right now. This is the time where it's like, oh, this is why I'm here. Because I can actually do something now. And and again, it's not like you maybe know exactly what you want to do career-wise and how it all fits into the package of your future and your financial, and all that. But this type of situation is being like, oh, I actually have huge abilities here. And I know you guys do. And I see it again and again. And I know that that's why you're following this work. And it's time to validate. Maybe that's like we talked about the Uranus sextile the North Node here, exact for this next week. is this radical change in self-worth for these souls, and saying, whoa, I, you know, and see, it's literally been proven, through the Heart Math Institute. There's this energy that when we're in frequency vibration with the earth, which is also heart frequency consciousness, heart resonance is what they were calling it. And that the studies have shown that when you're in heart resonance, the people around you automatically come into heart resonance, just kind of like we feel the fear of the person across the room, right? But it's time for us to take charge and claim our permission for peace. And it's not easy right now. And yet, is that giving us the opportunity to go deeper in to claim that? So there's definitely, that's what I'm working with also in the 21 days of presence. If you feel called to check that out, maybe that 3 minutes at noon or whatever would be a good time to check in with that vibration of being like, okay, this is all going on, but this is the deal. We have things coming and going constantly in our world, and this too will pass. This will change. And we're going to look back and be like, maybe humanity will be like, whoa, I can't believe we bought into that fear. And it was completely unwarranted. And we spent all of our energy. We went and bought piles of toilet paper, and it wasn't really necessary. Now but it's cool because it's actually giving an opportunity too for those changes on a financial, a big structures financially, and an infusion in our economies of a different energy, even though it's going to be weird for a couple weeks and people will be affected, because it's already snowballed to the point where we can't really pull back, and everybody's staying at home. Now, is there a bigger reason for everybody to chill out right now? Is there something else going on that is like a greater reason why we all need to just chill out and stay home? But while we're doing that, how about we tap into the greater, wider truth of the power of our consciousness, of our heart consciousness, and that when we stay connected in our heart consciousness, we can find that power within us, understand the power we have, and begin to use it. And that other thing that came through around it in this opportunity for us is that when we are pushed into this place of claiming that heart consciousness, then we can also feel that conscious connection with the other souls, our soul group too, and so incredibly powerful times for us, and really important for us to do our part to claim our permission. And just real quick on this note, what I found in my work is that we all have, especially these souls who are creator souls, projector souls, you have the power of consciousness you've worked on through many lifetimes and evolutions. You've been targeted in past lives and this life. And so there's often, in order to have that kind of targeting, you also have fear programming. So we all have fear programming on a DNA level. But what allows the fear programming to take hold is authority contracts, where we literally agreed in past lives because of something that happened, right? So they created the seed in our consciousness, created the fear around it. The event occurred. We as advanced souls blamed ourselves and then said, no, I won't ever come into my power again, which is exactly what they wanted, except it's time now to come into your power again. Because the power we have is when we work together. And so just right here, right now, if you feel like you feel this calling within you and you'd like to just say yes within your being right here, right now, would you like to break old, worn out contracts from past lives where you agreed not to come into your power because of this fear programming? Because it's like the time is now and all hands are on deck. So just right here, right now, if you're ready, and say yes within your being to break all contractual arrangements with an idea or an actual power outside of yourself that you agreed was more powerful. Got to say whether or not you come into your intuitive power, because we need you here right now. And go ahead and say yes to that, and just receive an energetic wave to help support the release of these authority contracts and from these past life experiences and your present life, wherever what comes up right now. A big part of what's happening has been with these souls is this feeling of like, oh, you went through all this, go through all these evolutions, you're this big healer soul, you got all this potential and can't do anything to help. Sorry, and that's a lie and a delusion. And but it's like abuse. It's actual abuse. It's just like secondhand abuse, that they find that like a person abused has definitely like PTSD and issues from that. But the person who had to watch the abuse and not be able to do anything about it has even worse symptoms a lot of times of abuse. And that's what's been going on. It's like literal abuse. It's like, oh, all you powerful souls, and you just have to watch these horrible atrocities happen on your planet and not be able to do anything about it, right? You're powerless to help. And that's a huge lie. But you can see how like these powerful souls that are on the cutting edge of evolution and have the power to project and create would be targeted, right? How do you hold back a whole evolution? You target the leaders and the ones that are on the edge. And all these souls are on the planet. I mean, so many light worker, powerful souls on the planet right now. And it's time to be like, oh yeah, no. We've got the power, especially when we come together, because it's like, when we really look about it, there's a tiny amount of those energies that are in control, those control energies. And there's billions of us. And we got to be like, wait a minute. How did we buy into this whole story, and take our power back and the power of our consciousness. And we have a perfect opportunity to use it right now, here together. No more negative creating, because it's like, what is trying to be created with all this fear energy? Because this is not even as bad as a cold or a flu. So what are we freaking out about? And then there's this whole thing of like, are there forces working with this global energy to make some of these big changes that need to happen too? Taking down global control energies. And so this is just, it's just that constant dichotomy where it's like, yes, it's time for you to come into your power and do what you're here to do. But you have no idea what it is you're doing or why or anything like that, except for we do have the vibrational resonance of this world we came here to create. And we wouldn't have gone through all we've gone through and be as powerful and big as we are and squeeze ourselves into this lower dimension with all this duality and darkness if we weren't going to win, And now we get to do it. And this is giving us a perfect opportunity. So I would love to feel your energy together, and I'll be back with daily updates through this next period of time. And maybe at that noon time, if you notice, it's just kind of an easy time to grab a hold of, and we could be like 3 minutes of vibrational resonance of like, oh yeah, we're creating a more beautiful and amazing experience here on Earth, that we know why we're here. Vibrationally, we don't know exactly what it looks like and exactly what we need to do, but we do know we're being called right here, right now to be that consciousness army, to be that presence that says, yeah, no, we're not going to allow you to take our fear, our energy, and our consciousness. See, that's what's gone on in these past life pictures I've seen again and again, where it's like these forces used your energy, your power against you. And so now you've agreed to remain separated from your power. But it's like, that's why these souls have been going through such difficult times, because you can't do it anymore. It's like, it's just getting too painful. And then the other energy that's coming in is these divine timelines trying to land. And that is rather traumatic, So it's like, is that what's trying to happen on the planet too? Like our more optimal timeline, our new Earth, our 5D, Earth, Gaia, goddess, Eden star that she's supposed to be, the original Gaia codes. It's like coming back into these timelines landing. That means a divine, more ideal timeline for us individually. And as we can receive that, perhaps the collective can receive it. But those, our current systems are so far away from that, and they got to break down. And so is that what's trying to happen here? Because nothing adds up in this situation, and nobody's interested in actually the facts. But the whole task force thing is giving us the actual facts. This isn't actually a danger. Okay, another thing that was happening is that the original testing they were doing, they were giving 80% false positives. So the tests themselves were control energy tests, right? So that's why it's really important we get actual good tests out there. And it's really at this time the pandemic and the is a propaganda fear porn machine. That's the disease we're dealing with. And if we can see it from that point of view, we're in such a better position to be able to hold space for our brothers and sisters that might be freaking out around us, and kind of hold tight, because we're in the storm, batten down the hatches, come into that power, come together and find this love and hope of why we're here and what we're really doing, because this will pass sooner than we think. And maybe it will bring us back together in some sort of consciousness and some sort of spiritual awakening. We know we need it. And this might be a rather minor form. It's way better than a huge catastrophe or a world war, because it really isn't a threat. So anyway, just some thoughts. I was going to start my daily updates tomorrow, but I felt called that we really got to get on this right now and claim the vibration and the thoughts and the feelings that we want to have, and use this opportunity to find that power within. So thanks so much for being here. So much gratitude coming in for you guys and the souls and what you've gone through. Just like, whoa, thank you so much for just surviving and being here and coming back to earth and being willing to go through all of this, and it will be worth it. So hang in there, keep in touch. Let's keep in touch on the comments. I love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.